Today's story is about an incident so mysterious that it involved investigations by the local police, the state crime branch, and eventually, the country's premier investigation agency, the CBI. Yet, the case remains unsolved. Initially, the family fought for justice, but now they fight just to keep the investigation going because no substantial evidence has been found in the case. Before we dive into the story, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so. Today, we're discussing the Navruna Chakravarty case. The story begins in the city of Muzaffarpur in Bihar. Near Jawaharlal Road, in Chakravarty Lane, there lived a Bengali family, the Chakravartys. This family included the elderly Atulya Chakravarty, his wife Maitreyi Chakravarty, their 3 children, a son and 2 daughters, and Atulya's elder brother. They lived in a 2-story ancestral house that had been in their family for 7 generations. In 2012, the youngest member of the family was Navruna Chakravarty, a 12-year-old girl who studied in class 7 at St. Xavier's School. Navruna was an excellent student. Exams had just ended, and the post-exam holidays were underway. On September 18th, during the festival of Tej, a celebration similar to Karva Chauth, Navruna, inspired by her neighbors, decided to apply mehendi henna on her hands. That night, as usual, she would have slept with her parents in their room. However, because of the freshly applied mehendi, she insisted on sleeping in another room to avoid smudging it. Initially, her parents resisted, worried she might feel scared alone at night. But Navruna persisted, and they eventually gave in. Her mother prepared the other room for her, setting up the bed. Navruna went to sleep there after studying a little. The rest of the family also retired to their respective rooms. The date changed from September 18th to September 19th, around 3:30 am. Atulya, Navruna's father, woke up, possibly to use the washroom. As he stepped out of his room, he noticed the corridor light, which was usually kept on at night, was switched off. Concerned, he woke his wife and asked if she had turned off the light. She denied it. This felt unusual to him. They both decided to check on Navruna. When they reached her room, they found the door slightly ajar. Upon entering, they saw a figure on the bed, covered by a blanket. Assuming it was their daughter, Atulya gently pulled back the blanket to see her face. To their shock, Navruna was not there. Instead, pillows had been arranged to make it look like someone was sleeping. The parents were in disbelief. They searched the house thoroughly, checking the bathroom, every room, and every corner. But Navruna was nowhere to be found. Panicked, her mother ran to the courtyard, screaming that their daughter was missing. Hearing the commotion, Navruna's uncle and other family members, who were sleeping upstairs, rushed down. The family checked all the house entrances and found them locked from the inside, including the main gate. There was no obvious way for anyone to have entered or exited the house. By morning, the neighborhood was abuzz with the news of the missing child. The family reported the incident to the Muzaffarpur town police station. Navruna's father speculated that land mafias might be involved, as they had been eyeing their property. He filed a complaint alleging kidnapping. Initially, the police did not take the case seriously. However, during their investigation, they noticed something unusual. The window of Navruna's room, facing the road, had 3 bent iron bars, creating a gap large enough for a person to pass through. The police theorized that Navruna might have been abducted through this window. Her father recalled that the window shutters had been closed, possibly by the abductors, to delay the family's realization of her disappearance. Early on, the local police suggested that Navruna might have eloped with someone she was romantically involved with, citing the neatly arranged pillows and blanket as an attempt to mislead the family. They argued that if it were a kidnapping, there would have been signs of a struggle, such as a disturbed bed or noises from Navruna resisting her captors. However, the family firmly denied these allegations, emphasizing that Navruna was just a 12-year-old child. How could she even understand such matters? She always slept with her parents and was too young to be involved in any romantic relationships. Even inquiries at her school revealed nothing of the sort. Navruna was deeply focused on her studies and showed no signs of being distracted by personal issues. The local police, however, started suspecting the family itself. They accused Navruna's parents of orchestrating her disappearance and even suggested that her father might have killed her to protect the family's honor. According to this theory, Navruna might have been involved with someone, and her father, unable to bear the shame, killed her. This led to the police thoroughly searching the Chakravarty house for weeks, checking every corner, including the septic tank, to locate a possible hidden body. For a month, the investigation went nowhere. Atulya Chakravarty, Navruna's father, was a pharmaceutical businessman and financially well off. Through his connections in the Bengali community, he reached out to a Supreme Court judge and requested assistance. The judge intervened by contacting Aj Gupteshwar Pandey and urging him to look into the case. With this push, the investigation gained some momentum. When the love affair theory yielded no evidence, the investigation shifted focus to the possibility of land mafias, as Navruna's father had earlier suggested. Atulya had disputes with 3 individuals, his neighbor, and 2 others who were either trying to forcibly take over his property or purchase it at a low price. The police detained these individuals for questioning, but no concrete evidence surfaced. Meanwhile, Navruna's room had been sealed by the police, restricting access even to her family. It wasn't until a month later that a forensic team arrived to investigate. They found a few clues, including a piece of rope, an amulet, and traces of acid in the room. Based on these findings, it appeared that the kidnappers had poured acid on the window grill to weaken it. They then used a thick rope to bend the iron bars outward, creating enough space for a person to enter or exit. Since the house was old, the already weakened windows succumbed to the force. As months passed without any leads, on November 24, 2012, a significant development occurred. Workers from the Muzaffarpur Municipal Corporation were cleaning drains in the city when they reached the area near Navruna's house. While clearing debris from a covered drain, they discovered a human skeleton. This caused a commotion, drawing a crowd and prompting the police to intervene. The discovery immediately reminded the police of Navruna's case. Could these bones belong to the missing girl? The skeletal remains were photographed and sent to Sri Krishna Medical College and Hospital in Muzaffarpur, and later to a hospital in Patna for forensic analysis. The forensic report revealed that the bones belonged to a female aged 13 to 15 years and were relatively recent, dating to around November 10, 2012. The findings intensified media coverage, with the story spreading across neighboring states. The police decided to collect blood samples from Navruna's parents for DNA testing to confirm if the remains were hers. However, her parents refused, adamant that their daughter had been kidnapped and was still alive. They demanded that the police focus on finding her instead of investigating the skeletal remains. By December 2012, the case was handed over to the CID. The CID also requested blood samples from Navruna's family for DNA testing, but they too were denied. This resistance led the CID to suspect possible involvement of the family in the case. Despite their suspicions, no substantial evidence was found, and the investigation dragged on. Both the police and CID explored the angle of land mafias. Investigations revealed that Atulya had been negotiating the sale of his property. On September 1, 2012, he had entered into a deal with a businessman, receiving an advance payment of Rupee 21 lakh. However, Atulya had not disclosed this transaction to the police. When the CID cross-checked this information with the businessman, he confirmed the deal. Atulya eventually admitted to it as well. This revelation spread quickly in the locality, raising questions about whether the deal and Navruna's disappearance were connected. At the time of the deal, the incident involving Navruna had not yet occurred. It was believed that the property's value was significantly higher than what was being offered, making the deal controversial. It could have been crores. Maybe the land mafia didn't want the Chakravarty family to sell everything and leave. To stop them from leaving, they might have had the daughter kidnapped. The father claimed this, saying that it had been a year since the girl disappeared, and the CID investigation had yielded no results. Then, in September 2013, during a public hearing, Navruna's parents met the Bihar chief minister. They requested that the case be handed over to the CBI, saying that the state police couldn't solve it, and that influential people were involved. The state government listened to them and decided to hand over the case to the CBI. The CBI tried to take the case, but initially, they refused. The question was whether the state CID was incapable of solving the case. Moreover, the CBI needed officers from the state, and the government was unable to provide them. Eventually, the Supreme Court ordered that the case be investigated by the CBI. In February 2014, the CBI began their investigation. The first step was to conduct a DNA test on the bones that had been found. However, Navruna's parents were still reluctant. The CBI explained to them that their daughter had been missing for so long, and there was no proof of her being alive or dead. Without the DNA test, the investigation couldn't move forward. This time, the parents agreed. A blood sample was taken, and the bones were tested at a hospital in Patna. The DNA results matched, confirming that the remains belonged to Navruna. All this time, the family had believed that their daughter was alive, and that she had been kidnapped. The tests also revealed that the remains had been tampered with. These remains were initially with the police, then with the CID. The father alleged that the police and CID were likely involved with the land mafia. He mentioned that when the remains were found in a drain, a senior officer showed him photos of the bones, suggesting they appeared to belong to a tall man. When the father saw the photos, he agreed, because the leg bone seemed unusually long. Compared to Navruna, who was shorter in height, the bones didn't match. At Sri Krishna Medical College and Hospital, the doctor who examined the remains said they appeared to be 12 to 24 months old, but Navruna had disappeared just 2.5 months ago. According to the father, the bones looked fragile, as if they had been in the drain for several days. The skull was so filled with dirt that removing it would yield at least 0.5 kilogram of soil. Regarding the drain, the father explained that it had been cleaned just a month earlier during the CH Hath festival. So, how could it be cleaned again in just 1 month? This raised doubts about the world counselor, who had ordered the drain to be cleaned and was present when the bones were found. There were several pending cases against this counselor, including one involving a train robbery. After the remains were examined at a hospital in Muzaffarpur, they were sent to Patna. The doctor there said the bones appeared to belong to a person aged 30 to 40 years. The father also read about this in a news article. Eventually, the report suggested the bones belonged to a girl aged 13 to 15, who was likely killed between November 10th and November 20th. Later, another report came, confirming the DNA match, but also revealing evidence of tampering. After Navruna went missing, her father met Adi Gupteshwar Pandey through the Supreme Court judge. Pandey gave the father a phone number and told him to make contact. When the father called that number, he heard his daughters crying and screaming on the other side before the call was abruptly disconnected. He called again, but this time the phone was switched off. He realized that he had ignored calls from this number earlier, assuming they were from an unknown caller. A police officer later gave the father another number, from which calls had also come. On the call, Navruna's crying could be heard. This made the father realize that powerful people were involved in the case. It was also suggested that the Aji might have connections with the mafia. When this issue came up, people started questioning the AG, but he denied all allegations. He claimed that some close associates of Atulya Chakravarty were trying to defame him. He said that if the CBI wanted, they could question him. He then shared a small story from December 2012. A woman bank employee had called Adi Pandey, crying and complaining about a man who had been stalking her for months, sending love letters, messages, and making inappropriate comments. Despite repeated rejections, the man didn't stop. The woman feared for her life and said that if nothing was done, she would be forced to commit suicide. This was the time when the Nirbhaya incident had occurred, which had angered the entire country. Adi Pandey acted swiftly and intervened, getting the police in Muzaffarpur involved. The woman, too scared to reveal the stalker's name, was under police surveillance. Eventually, the man was arrested, and his phone was seized, revealing several love letters and messages. He was jailed, but was later granted bail. The man later became an RTI activist, targeting Adi Pandey for sending him to jail. He filed many petitions, writing letters to the Prime Minister, the President, the Home Minister, the Governor, and even Supreme Court judges. Adi Pandey claimed that every allegation against him was thoroughly investigated, but he was found innocent each time. The man later revealed that he had interfered in the Navruna case to take revenge on the Aj. Using his connections, he manipulated Navruna's family, especially her elder sister, to create doubt about the addict's involvement. Around 2016-2017, this man filed a petition in the Supreme Court asking the CBI to speed up the investigation, as no leads had emerged. Despite questioning 66 people and sending notices to 250 others, including high-ranking officers, no substantial progress was made. The CBI's first arrest was on September 5, 2017, of a world counselor who had ordered the cleaning of the drain where the bones were found. However, no evidence was found against him, and he was released. On April 29, 2018, 6 people were arrested, including a district council member, a vice chairman, a builder, a marble businessman, a hotel owner, and a private hospital owner. The CBI also conducted narco tests, lie detector tests, and brain mapping on everyone involved, but no conclusive evidence was found. Despite requesting an extension from the Supreme Court multiple times, the CBI struggled to find answers. Finally, in 2020, the CBI filed a closure report in a special court, stating that it could not gather any solid evidence in the case and was therefore closing the investigation. The closure report, which was 40 pages long, included 86 points. After the closure, Navruna's parents left for Kolkata due to the father's health issues. The father told a media person over the phone that the CBI was under political pressure and didn't want to solve the case. However, he trusted the court and believed that justice would eventually be served. And so, the story ends here. Thank you.